I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. How much of your day-to-day did you actually remember? I do not mean the big bullet points, like going to work or eating lunch. I mean the texture of it, the specific way the light hit the pavement during your commute, or the actual taste of that third coffee you downed while staring at a spreadsheet. If you are like most of us, the answer is probably not much. We are living in an era where we feel less like the main characters of our own lives and more like background extras, or what the internet calls NPCs, non-player characters. We run the same scripts day in and day out. Wake up, scroll through social media, commute, work, pay bills, sleep, repeat. It feels safe, but it also feels hollow. And there is a reason for that. We have been taught that success comes from logical, linear processing. We are told to be efficient machines. But here is the terrifying truth. If your value lies in being a logical machine, you are already obsolete. Artificial intelligence does not just do logic better than you. It does it faster, cheaper, and without needing a mental health day. So, where does that leave us? What is the one thing that separates a human soul from a line of code? Today, we're going to dive deep into the concept of elastic thinking. We are exploring the profound insights from the book Elastic, Flexible Thinking in a Time of Change by Leonard Mlodinow. Now, Mlodinow is not your average self-help guru. He is a theoretical physicist who taught at Caltech, worked alongside Stephen Hawking on A Briefer History of Time, and, surprisingly enough, wrote for Star Trek, The Next Generation. He understands the universe, but more importantly, he understands the human mind. He argues that while our logical, analytical brains allowed us to build civilization, it is our elastic brains, our ability to let go, to imagine, and to break the rules that will allow us to survive the future. Let us talk about why this matters right now. We are drowning in data. Every single day, the average person consumes the equivalent of about 10,000 words of information. That is roughly the length of a short novel uploaded into your brain every 24 hours. New apps, new political crises, new technologies, new social norms. The world is shifting under our feet at a velocity that our ancestors could not have comprehended. If your mind is rigid, if you are stuck in old patterns, you are going to break. You will feel that burnout, that crushing weight of trying to keep up. Mlodinow suggests that the people who thrive in this chaos are not the ones with the highest IQ or the hardest work ethic. They are the ones who have mastered elastic thinking. This is your soft power. It is the ability to step off the comfortable path, to embrace uncertainty, and to rewrite the script of your life in real time. It is about questioning the assumptions that have been hardwired into you since childhood. Why do you need that corporate job? Why do you need to buy a house by 30? Why do you define your worth by your productivity? To understand elastic thinking, we first have to understand its opposite, scripted thinking. Scripted thinking is the autopilot mode I mentioned earlier. It is useful. You do not want to have to consciously calculate the physics of walking every time you take a step, or relearn how to drive your car every morning. The brain loves these scripts because they save energy. You see a red light, you stop. You hear a notification sound, you check your phone. It is automatic. But here is where it gets dangerous. We start applying these scripts to the complex, emotional parts of our lives. We have scripts for arguments with our partners. We have scripts for how we spend our Friday nights. We become efficient, but we lose our consciousness. There is a famous example in the scientific community that Mlodinow brings up, and it is a little bit haunting. It is about the Sphex wasp. This wasp is a fascinating creature. When it is time to lay eggs, the mother wasp hunts a cricket, paralyzes it, and drags it to the entrance of her burrow. She leaves the cricket right at the threshold, goes inside to check that the tunnel is clear, and then comes back out to drag the cricket in. It looks like intelligent, thoughtful behavior. She is being careful. But scientists decided to test this. They waited until the wasp went inside the burrow, and then they moved the cricket just a few inches away. When the wasp came out, she did not just drag the cricket in. She dragged it back to the threshold, and then here is the kicker. She went back inside to check the empty burrow again. She came out, saw the cricket was moved, put it back at the threshold, and went inside to check again. The scientists did this 40 times. 40 times, the wasp repeated the exact same loop. She could not skip the step. She could not adapt. She was trapped in a script. When you hear that story, it is easy to feel superior to the bug. But are we really that different? Think about the last time you refreshed your Instagram feed when you were bored. You closed the app, put the phone down, realized you were still bored, picked it up, and opened the exact same app again within 10 seconds. That is the Sphex wasp loop. That is scripted thinking. We are running on algorithms that were programmed into us by evolution, by society, and by big tech companies. The danger is that if we live entirely in this scripted mode, we become biological machines. We lose our agency. We lose our ability to create art, to find unexpected solutions, and to genuinely connect with the universe around us. We are just processing inputs and outputs. Elastic thinking is the antidote. It is the ability to maintain a low-level awareness, a monitor running in the background that says, "Hey, wait a minute. Why am I doing this? Is there a different way?" It is the ability to toggle between the focused, analytical left brain and the broad, imaginative right brain. I am using those terms metaphorically, of course, as neuroscience is a bit more complex, but the idea stands. The human brain is unique because we can override our programming. We can stop the loop, but it takes effort. It takes a willingness to be inefficient. It takes the courage to sit with a problem and not force a solution immediately. It is about letting your mind wander into the dark corners, the places where logic does not apply. In the next part of this conversation, we are going to look at the practical how. How do we actually break these scripts? Mlodinow offers us a roadmap, and it involves some counter-intuitive advice. We are going to talk about the power of doing absolutely nothing, the science of looking inside, and why your best ideas probably come to you when you're in the shower or half asleep. We are going to explore how to reclaim your brain from the autopilot trap and start thinking like a human again. This journey into the mind is not just about being smarter. It is about being more alive. It is about ensuring that when you look back on your day, or your year, or your life, you are not just seeing a blur of efficient task completion. You are seeing a series of choices that you made, ideas that you created, and a life that is uniquely, elastically yours. So take a breath. Unclench your jaw. Let us step out of the burrow and look at the world with fresh eyes. So we know we are trapped in these loops. We are the wasp moving the cricket over and over again, terrified to deviate from the script because the script feels safe. But how do we actually break out? How do we stop being a machine and start being a human again? Leonard Mlodinow suggests that the journey back to yourself starts with a concept that sounds simple, but is actually incredibly difficult in our distracted world. wakefulness. I want you to try something right now. Seriously, do not just listen to me say it. Actually do it. Look at an object near you. Maybe it is the phone in your hand, or a coffee mug, or just the fabric of the couch you are sitting on. Reach out and touch it. What does it actually feel like? Is the glass cold? Is the ceramic rough? Is the screen warm from your battery overworking? When was the last time you ate a piece of fruit, maybe a clementine or an apple, and actually tasted the burst of acidity and sweetness, rather than just inhaling it while checking your emails? That sensation, that sudden snap back into the physical reality of the present moment, is the foundation of elastic thinking. It is the opposite of the autopilot. In mindfulness circles, they call this beginner's mind. It is the ability to experience the world, not through the filter of, I know what a cup feels like, but through the raw data of what is actually happening right now. Even as you are listening to my voice, are you really here? Or are you half thinking about what you need to cook for dinner, or replaying an awkward conversation from 3 years ago? True wakefulness is realizing, I am here. I am listening. I am sitting in this chair. It sounds trivial, but this low-level awareness is the only way to interrupt the script. You cannot rewrite a line of code if you do not even know the program is running. Once you start practicing this wakefulness, you unlock the second pillar of elastic thinking, insight, or as we usually call it, the vibe check. We have all had this experience. You walk into a room, or you meet someone for the first time, and instantly, something feels off. Your logical brain, the left hemisphere, is saying, they are smiling, they are dressed nicely, they are saying all the right, polite words. But your gut is screaming, run, this person is dangerous. Or conversely, you meet someone and you just click, you feel safe. We tend to dismiss this as superstition or having a sixth sense, but Mlodinow argues this is actually high-level data processing. It is your elastic brain at work. Here is the science behind it. Your brain is roughly divided into 2 hemispheres with different job descriptions. The left hemisphere is your inner accountant. It loves logic, language, linear lists, and clear answers. It is loud and confident. The right hemisphere is your inner artist. It processes the weird stuff, facial micro-expressions, tone of voice, body language, emotional nuance. It notices connections that are too subtle for the accountant to put on a spreadsheet. When you get that gut feeling, it is not magic. It is your right hemisphere noticing 1,000 tiny red flags, a fake smile, a rigid posture, a tone that does not match the words, and sending a summary report to your conscious mind. The problem is, because we worship logic in our society, we often ignore this report. We tell ourselves, don't be silly, he seems nice. And then 6 months later, when everything falls apart, we say, I knew it. I knew it from day one. Developing elastic thinking means learning to trust that background processing. It means integrating the artist and the accountant. Mlodinow suggests we can actually train this flexibility by forcing our brains out of their comfort zones physically. If you are right-handed, try brushing your teeth with your left hand tonight. It is going to feel frustrating. You will feel uncoordinated and clumsy. But that frustration is good. It forces your brain to build new neural pathways. It snaps you out of the toothbrushing script and forces you to be present. You are signaling to your brain, we are not doing the usual routine today. But the most fascinating concept Mlodinow introduces, and this is my favorite part of the book, is something he calls the dark energy of the brain. In physics, dark energy and dark matter make up about 95% of the universe. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, but it holds everything together. The visible universe, the stars, the planets, you, me, is just a tiny fraction of reality. Mlodinow says our brains work the same way. The conscious thoughts. You are aware of your internal monologue, your focus on this video that is just the visible tip of the iceberg. The real magic happens in the dark. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas never come to you when you are sitting at your desk, staring at a blank document, stressing out, and trying to think hard? No. They come to you when you are in the shower. They come to you when you are driving on a long, empty highway. They come to you when you are half asleep or just watching the rain hit the window. Why? Because when you stop focusing, you deactivate the brain's executive attention network, the bossy manager that keeps you on task. And you activate the default mode network. This is the brain's playground. When the boss leaves the room, the brain starts making wild, loose associations. It connects that weird thing you saw on TV last week with a problem you are having at work and a memory from 3rd grade. Suddenly, bam! Eureka! The solution appears out of nowhere. This leads us to a hard truth about our modern culture. We are terrified of the dark. We are terrified of silence. We have demonized doing nothing. We treat our brains like factories that need to be running at 100% capacity, 24/7. If we have 5 minutes of downtime while waiting for a friend, what do? We pull out our phones, we check notifications, we scroll, we listen to podcasts at 2 times speed because we want to be efficient. We think we are relaxing, but we are not. We are just switching from producing data to consuming data. Scrolling through TikTok or Instagram is not rest for your brain. It is a fire hose of information, colors, sounds, text, social comparison, dopamine hits. Your brain is still running a marathon. It is just running on a treadmill now. This constant input kills elastic thinking. It drowns out the quiet voice of the default mode network. You cannot have a breakthrough idea if you never give your brain the silence it needs to speak to you. We confuse numbing out with resting. Binge watching a series until 3 a.m. is numbing. Doom scrolling until your eyes burn is numbing. True rest, the kind that recharges your elastic thinking, looks like boredom. It looks like sitting on a park bench and just watching people walk by. It looks like taking a walk without your headphones. It looks like staring at the ceiling and letting your mind wander into weird, uncomfortable places. It is in those moments of idle time that your brain processes the emotional weight of your life. It sorts through the data. It heals. If you constantly block that out with noise and digital distraction, you are essentially refusing to let your computer install updates. Eventually, the system is going to crash. So, the prescription for developing this superpower is paradoxical. To be smarter, you have to be willing to be idle. To be more productive, you have to waste time. To find the answer, you have to stop looking for it. But let's say you have mastered this. You are waking up. You are trusting your gut. You are letting your brain rest. How do we turn that potential into actual, tangible creativity? How do we take that elastic mind and build something new, something that changes our lives or even the world? In the final part of this story, we are going to look at the mechanism of creativity itself. We are going to talk about piglets, chessboards, and why the most brilliant minds in history, from Einstein to poets, embraced a little bit of madness. We are going to learn how to connect the unconnected, and finally answer the question, how do we live a life that is not just efficient, but beautiful? So, We have talked about waking up from the autopilot trance, and we have talked about the power of doing absolutely nothing to let your brain's dark energy do the heavy lifting. But now we arrive at the final, most exciting piece of the puzzle: creativity. When we hear the word creative, we usually picture a tortured artist in a loft in Brooklyn, covered in paint, or a tech genius in a hoodie inventing the next iPhone. We think creativity is a lightning bolt that strikes a chosen few. But Leonard Mlodinow argues that creativity is actually something much more mechanical, something you can practice. It is simply the ability to connect two things that have absolutely no business being connected. Let me tell you a story about a man named Clarence Saunders. Back in the early 1900s, grocery shopping was a nightmare. You walked into a store, handed a list to a clerk, and then stood there waiting while they ran around fetching your flour, your butter, and your eggs. It was slow, it was inefficient, and if the store was busy, you were stuck there for an hour. It was a scripted experience. Everyone just accepted that this was how buying food worked. But Saunders was an elastic thinker. He was not looking at other grocery stores for ideas. The story goes that one day, he was looking at a farm, watching a mother pig feeding her piglets. He noticed how the piglets didn't wait in line. They didn't ask permission. They just scrambled over each other, found a spot, and served themselves. It was chaotic, but it worked. And in that moment, his elastic brain made a bizarre, seemingly impossible connection. He looked at those pigs and thought, why can't humans shop like that? He took the logic of the farmyard and applied it to retail. He fired the clerks, put the goods on open shelves, gave customers baskets, and installed turnstiles. In 1916, in Memphis, Tennessee, he opened the world's first self-service supermarket. He named it Piggly Wiggly. People thought he was insane. They said it would never work. But it revolutionized the entire world economy. That is the power of elastic thinking. It is not about inventing something from thin air. It is about taking an idea from column A, piglets, nursing, and smashing it into column B, grocery stores, to create something entirely new. This is the core of innovation. In Silicon Valley, specifically at Stanford University, educators like Tina Seelig have spent years teaching this exact concept. They call it reframing, or cross-pollination. I want to try a quick mental exercise with you right now. Let's stretch that elastic muscle. I am going to give you two words that have nothing to do with each other. The first word is chess. The second word is barbecue. Your logical brain, that loud left hemisphere, is immediately confused. It says, these don't match. Chess is intellectual and quiet. Barbecue is messy, loud, and involves fire. But I want you to force them together. What happens if you merge them? Maybe you imagine a restaurant where you play chess to win ingredients for your grill. Maybe you imagine a chessboard made of different hot sauces. Maybe you design a spatula shaped like a rook. Most of these ideas will be terrible. That is okay. The point isn't to be good immediately. The point is to force your brain to build a bridge between two islands that have never been connected before. If you do this every day, just picking two random objects and asking, how do they fit together? You will physically change the wiring of your mind. You will start seeing solutions where other people only see walls. But here is the catch. You cannot do this if your brain is chemically burned out. And this brings us to the most critical warning Mlodinow gives us, the trap of the reward system. Our brains run on a chemical currency. The most famous one is dopamine. It is the molecule of more. It is the driving force that gets you out of bed to pursue a goal. But in our modern world, the market for dopamine has crashed. We have flooded the system with counterfeit currency. Think about video games, or slot machines, or the infinite scroll of TikTok. These things are engineered to hack your reward system. You swipe, you see a funny video hit of dopamine. You swipe again, another hit. You kill a monster in a game hit. It feels good in the moment. It feels like you are accomplishing something. But it is an illusion. Mlodinow distinguishes between the deep, sustaining satisfaction of consummatory rewards, like the feeling of finishing a good book, painting a picture, or having a deep conversation, and the cheap, rapid-fire rewards of digital stimulation. When you spend 4 hours playing a video game or doom scrolling, you are not actually relaxing. You are frying your dopamine receptors. You are training your brain to demand instant gratification. And guess what? Elastic thinking hates instant gratification. Elastic thinking requires patience. It requires the ability to sit with a problem for days or weeks without a clear answer. If you are addicted to the cheap stuff, you lose the capacity for the deep stuff. You become numb. You stop seeking the joy of discovery and settle for the numbness of distraction. So, if you want to reclaim your genius, you have to detox. You have to trade the cheap dopamine for the slow-burn serotonin of real life. Go for a run. Cook a meal from scratch. Write a terrible poem. Do things that require effort, because the effort is what primes your brain for those massive breakthroughs. And finally, if you really want to master this, you have to be willing to be a little bit weird. History is filled with elastic thinkers who refuse to grow up. We are told that maturity means being serious, logical, and composed. But the people who changed the world never got that memo. Look at Nikola Tesla. The man literally invented the 20th century alternating current, radio, the induction motor. But he was also deeply, profoundly strange. Toward the end of his life, he spent his time in New York City parks, feeding pigeons. He actually claimed to have fallen in love with a specific white pigeon, loving her as a man loves a woman. It sounds crazy to us. But that intense emotional capacity, that willingness to see beauty and soul in a bird, was the exact same energy that allowed him to visualize invisible magnetic fields. You cannot have the genius without the openness. Or look at Einstein. Even when he was the most famous physicist in the world, he was constantly seen riding his bicycle around Princeton, hair wild, smiling like a kid. He didn't care about looking professional. He cared about play. There is a beautiful line about the difference between a child and an adult. When a child sees a staircase, they think, "Can I slide down the banister?" When an adult sees a staircase, they think, "This is the most efficient way to get to the lower floor." We have become a society of stairwalkers. We are safe. We are efficient. And we are bored out of our minds. Elastic thinking is the choice to look at the banister again. It is the choice to embrace the beginner's mind, to ask, why? Like a toddler, to look at a grocery store and see a pig farm, to look at a pigeon and see a friend. So, here is my challenge to you for this week. It is not a big, grand goal. I don't want you to start a business or run a marathon. I want you to do one thing differently. Drive a different route to work. Order something on the menu you have never tried and might hate. Sit on a bench for 15 minutes without your phone. Ask a question you think sounds stupid. Break the script, even just a little bit, because the world doesn't need more machines. We have plenty of those. The world needs you, the real, messy, imaginative, elastic you. The universe is vast, and your mind is designed to explore it, not just process it. So turn off the autopilot, slide down the banister, and see where you land.